Did you see the sidestep? If Harry Kane was doing these sort of things, then the reels would be back and forth all over the place.
How crazy would it be for Arsenal to win the title with effectively what everyone thought was a holding midfielder when he arrived, playing up front?
More credit to Arteta. I love this, don't I? Odegaard and Zubimendi and their little space hopper switch trick that they were doing in midfield.
Not sure if I'm having pre-assist though, Dean. I think you're better than that. Arsenal maintained their 5-point lead at the top of the Premier League with a routine 2-0 win over Brentford the night after Man City eked out a 9-goal thriller at Fulham to keep the pressure on. Mikel Arteta is moaning about the packed schedule as he suffered 2 important injuries during that game, but not us. We are back in the Tactics Exposed studio. That's Sunsport tactical guru Dean Scoggins. I'm Will Pugh. This is Tactics Exposed. Dino, another Arsenal show on Tactics Exposed on their charge to the title. It appears an important win. 3 points. Mikel Arteta will be very happy indeed, even if it doesn't appear when he's talking.
Yeah, I mean, they've got an amazing squad, haven't they? And that's part of the show that we're going to talk about today, how they replace players and still do the same thing. That's the sign of champions.
Right, coming on, Dino, give us your 5 tactical points from the game last night.
Yeah, 2 marks beat us 1. You know I love the song titles, but this is about Odegaard and Zubimendi and their little space hopper switch trick that they were doing in midfield. Really interesting. Number 2, merry and bright. We can't not talk about Mikel Merino, or is that Harry Kane of what he was doing in this game? Number 3, the white side. The right side of Arsenal was a total switch up with Ben White and Noni Madueke. Really, really good from them. We'll have a look at that. Number 4, solid Timber. Went in at centre-back, which we might not have expected with another injury. You know how much I love Timber, so we'll look at that. And then Raya, the goalkeeper. We've barely spoken about him because Arsenal barely face a shot, but when he was needed, boy, what a save.
Absolutely. Yeah, you might be wondering why we're not doing team talk today. Obviously, the midweek games, but we're sprinkling some preview ahead of Arsenal's game against Aston Villa at the weekend during this show, so stay tuned. Dino, point number 1, 2 marks beat as 1. Martin Odegaard, Martin Zubimendi in the midfield for Arsenal, doing bits.
Yeah, you're not old enough for the U2 reference there in the song title, aren't you? So another very 90s reference from me. There might even be 80s, actually. But yeah, so this was really good. We haven't spoken very much about Martin Odegaard. We talked about him when he came off the bench against Chelsea and how he brought a bit of calm to Arsenal and moved them up the field. This was very different. For 2 players that, given the injuries, haven't really played together so much, it was really impressive, their sort of telepathy and understanding in midfield. And the point I want to make here is we know that, I mean, for the first 20 minutes, I was just transfixed on Odegaard. He was absolutely unreal. The movement, the number of spaces he moves into, he does not stop. And while he's running, he's pointing and clapping and keeping them all on the press. But whilst this is going on, him and Zubimendi are doing this really, really clever thing. So one of them's got the ball. Let's say Zubimendi's got the ball, okay? He then will pass it to his left, maybe to Rice or Calafiori. Then follow the pass into a different space. As he vacates that space, then Odegaard hops straight into it. And then the ball from Rice or Calafiori comes back into Odegaard where Zubimendi's vacated. So as a midfield and a defence for Brentford, they're like, oh, he's gone there, track your runner, as you do. And then, oh, bang, the ball's been popped back in there afterwards. Now, that is training ground stuff. Really, really quality. But also, they've got to understand with each other when they're doing it. There was, I think, 2 occasions in the entire match where they both ended up too close together. Other than that, it was 1 in, 1 out, swap over the other way. There was a great 3-time move of that in the build-up to Merino's goal. So just fantastic. I mean, look, we're talking about 2 top-class players here, but sometimes top-class players clash. These 2 don't. It was a really good sign for the rest of the season. And as I've said before, if they're going to win the title, which they probably are, Odegaard is vital to that, and his understanding with Zubimendi will be the same.
It's easy to just put 11 elite-level players on the pitch, but
the Real Madrid Galacticos didn't work,
well,
did
exactly.
it?
I'm thinking England under Sven-Göran Eriksson. There's plenty of teams where it hasn't quite worked, just crowbarring decent players in, throwing them out there. The difficult bit is obviously the synergy to get. It's interesting to me, Dino, because this sounds like another one of those tactical things, which we've started to cover a lot, particularly this season, I feel, on Tactics Exposed, where the attacking team is almost baiting the opposition into doing what we would consider quite basic football principles, i.e. tracking your runner. But by doing things that, what to most of us seem basic, that's actually to the detriment of the defending team. So, I'll track my runner, of course I will, because otherwise I'll get a volley. Actually, the sensible thing to do would be play sort of zonal, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's, again, the brains of these players. And Arteta, there was a moment on the touchline where he wasn't like a jackrabbit. He was actually quite calm for a change.
In his technical area?
Yeah, just about, maybe just on the edge of it. But he was actually giving this instruction, and I rewound it about 5 or 6 times to see what happened after that. And it was about this. It was about how, so basically Brentford were zonal in the defensive line, but the front 3 were going everywhere. So players like Sharda are chasing the ball. So very, very clever from Brentford, because they were sat as a 5 at the back with a couple in front, which became a 4 and a 3, depending on how they went forward. Didn't go forward that often, let's be honest. But then they were actually had their pressers going forward. So Arteta's seen this, communicated it to Odegaard, and him and Zubimendi have gone, OK, what we'll do is we'll drag one of those pressers out, which will mean they're a man light in behind the space we've just come out of. So that's sensational in-game management. And just really, really good against, you know, again, I'm not trying to be harsh on Brentford, but the mid to lower table sides come to these games with a plan. And with a very disciplined defensive plan. And in previous years, Arsenal have struggled in those games. So far this season, they're just batting these teams aside.
Yeah, quite. It did strike me as well, just very briefly on this, Dino, because one thing I noticed early on in the game was exactly what you just said, how I was quite surprised. I was like, Brentford are pressing them quite high up the pitch. And I was like, hang on a minute. They're kind of doing it on their own. What's the point? Because you leave that massive void in front of the Arsenal's defence and then in front of the going the other way, Brentford's midfield.
Yeah.
What's the thinking
It's like that vacating midfield, and that was because that is because often Arsenal, when they get pressed back to their own goal, then Raya will go long.
Yeah.
So a defensive manager, an opposition manager, you know, Keith Andrews has obviously decided we'll try and win as many things in the air as we can, which they are. You know, Ethan Pinnock and the likes at the back are going to win a lot in the air, and then it's a scrap in midfield. But we know how good Arsenal are with the second balls. So Odegaard, again, sort of changed that narrative to, as you say, you spotted it spot on, is then Zubimendi goes out of a space to allow Raya to play the ball through the middle to Odegaard's feet. And then Odegaard's turning the other way. And then Brentford are a bit like, oh, this isn't quite working. And then, as I mentioned, in the build-up to the goal, Zubimendi plays it out to Rice, goes out. Rice gives it back into Odegaard in the space he's vacated. And that's the pre-assist to when it goes outside to White for the Merino goal. So, yeah, brilliant from those two. Zubimendi had a poor game against Chelsea. As I said, he's allowed one. Yeah. The rest of the time, he's been brilliant. Those two together, not only in deep positions, but in number 10 positions, because Zubimendi did get up there in that position and support the attack as well. So another option for Arteta. Eze left out, you know, a couple of injuries, couple of players rested, Saka rested. These two come in and run the show.
Happy days for Arsenal. Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? Sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't as a defensive team. Not sure if I'm having pre-assist though, Dean. I think you're better than that. Point number 2, Merry and Bright. Mikel Merino yet again. Is that Mikel Merino or is that Harry Kane? Is what you came out with
how
an
much
introduction.
I love Harry Kane, and you know, and quite rightly. But if Harry Kane was doing these sort of things, then the reels would be back and forth all over the place. And Merino's doing this every week. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not quite putting Merino in the Kane striker category, but another goal, another assist. I mean, we'll flash up his stats. It's just absolutely unbelievably good. Right?
You've got that glint in your eye, Dino, the Harry Kane comparison.
Well, yeah. But look, I mean, he's not Harry Kane. But you know, across Europe at the moment, is anybody closer to Harry Kane than Mikel Merino? I mean, there's a question.
You know what's interesting, Dino, right? So for the first goal, great cross from Ben White, great little move beforehand. And as he crossed it in and he gets across the defender and nods it, what a great header. Yeah. Like, Keller had no chance in the Brentford goal. And I'm thinking, how wild would it be, given like last time Arsenal won the Premier League, the absolute, you know, extraordinary talent they had in their team, but players playing in positions you'd expect. How crazy would it be for Arsenal to win the title with effectively what everyone thought was a holding midfielder when he arrived, playing up front?
Yeah, it would. I mean, it was a bit like the Havertz conversation we had last year, and it's again that instinct that he's got for space in the area. And he's got better, and he is continuing to get better in that. But clearly Arteta and the coaching staff, when they had this striker issue, before they signed Gyökeres, they were like, right, who are we going to put up there? It's not just about open play. Lots of them can play in and out of the false 9, 10 positions. Martinelli can do it, Saka can do it, Odegaard can do it. They can all play in those spaces. But it's a case of when we do cross it, who's going to be the threat? And it was him. So therefore, they've said, right, he's the one that will lead the line. And I think we texted, WhatsApped each other as the goal went in, and it was, did you see the sidestep? And what he does, Merino, is as the ball goes wide to Ben White, actually, before it goes wide to Ben White, and it's from Odegaard it goes wide to Madueke, and then Ben White goes round the outside. But as it's going wide, Merino's going, right, it's my time. He goes away from the defenders, which brings the two centre-backs close together. And then, as the cross is made, little sidestep away to the gap that he has created. And it looks like a routine header when the cross comes in. Great cross. But it's about the space he created.
Yeah. When Mikel Arteta first put him in the team, it's probably fair to say that was as much through necessity. And also, and I remember a couple of the early shows we did, we were talking, and even the recent one we did about the Magnet Man trick. Go back and watch it if you fancy it. Just about how tactically he can be brilliant. And Arteta used him very cleverly. He played to his strengths, sort of accepting that maybe he's not a striker. Has the goal scoring bit surprised you?
Yes and no. I mean, they get the ball in the area a lot, so there will be a lot of chances. How clinical he's been has surprised me, because he did. I mean, there was one in the second half where he followed up the shot like a striker, but then didn't quite finish like a striker and tried to buy a penalty off the goalkeeper and it didn't quite come off. But yeah, a little bit. But these are high quality players. You watch them in the warm up, when we go to games, and they're smacking the ball in the top corner when they get the time to do it. So, they are high quality. But you mentioned there about the tactical side of it as well, is that in early season and in pre-season, Arsenal worked a lot on the players bombing past Gyökeres. So Gyökeres will run the channels, and then when he comes to feet, he wants the wingers to go beyond him. So that has helped as Merino has come into the team instead of Gyökeres over the injury, because then those players have practiced that already. And we saw one in the first half where it was Martinelli and Rice went up the outside of Merino, where he goes into this little area, Harry Kane style, and then the ball goes into his feet and he plays it round the corner. And then for the Saka goal, the assist that Merino got, again, he's dropped into the centre circle. The centre-back's thinking, oh, my God, he's going out there. I'm leaving all the space behind me. And Merino turns, plays Saka in, and, Saka just about gets it across the line. So, another outstanding performance and another sort of collection of 3 points from his goals and assists.
Yeah, absolutely, Dino. Right, now this one, point number 3. I thought you were going to tee me up for a song here. Always look on the white side of life.
Good.
But you've just got...
Or Mr. Whiteside. Yeah.
There we go, yeah. I've got a few complaints in recent days about my singing on Tactics Exposed, so maybe we'll have...
Right, I'm not complaining. As long as it's not me that's singing, that's fine.
Exactly. Look, Ben White and Noni Madueke. Noni Madueke, I thought, played extremely well. I don't want to do your job here, Dino, but one thing I did take you during the game was how much Arsenal were attacking down their right side once again, kind of like the old days. And I thought it was just because Martinelli's back on and Arteta doesn't trust him. But Ben White, excellent last night.
Well, I think to the point, it's not about Martinelli, it's more about Odegaard. So Odegaard favours that inside right when he's going forward, and obviously because Rice favours that inside left. So Odegaard getting lots of possession means they attack down the right a little bit more.
Is it not a little bit, though, that Madueke is just more dangerous on the ball and creates more?
Yeah, and they will.
Martinelli.
Absolutely, and they will, because they were dragging Brentford over into a position. That is the space that's opened up. Sure. But what was really impressive was, again, two players who haven't played together very much this season. Obviously, they train together every day, so we recognise that. But Ben White and Noni Madueke have really been second fiddle to Jurrien Timber and Bukayo Saka on that side, right? So they haven't had lots of minutes. So I was really impressed by Ben White's decision-making for a start, because when a winger gets it and you're told by the manager you're going to attack, there's two options. One's the underlap and one's the overlap. And a lot of times fullbacks get that wrong because they go up the inside and then the winger cuts in and he takes that space away. Or as the winger does the skill, they bang into each other and the fullback's trying to go around the outside. But as we saw with the Merino goal, White gives Madueke the ball, and then he makes the looping run round the back. Lovely flick from Madueke. There was also another great moment, and just shows how hard they work on these things on the training ground. And again, More credit to Arteta. I love this, don't I? But yeah, amazing stuff. Because what happens is they get the ball in midfield, Arsenal, and Ben White is in space on the right. And Noni Madueke is thinking, I'm not going to get the ball here. So he makes one of those lovely unselfish runs that goes into the striker position. And then Martinelli gives it to White in the space that Madueke's vacated. White crosses it. They don't quite score. But Martinelli goes straight to Madueke and gives him a big high fives and congratulations for the run he makes. So that's clear to me that's being worked on the training ground, because then a player goes, yes, mate, that's what we've been trying. So those two together were really, really good. Noni Madueke took defenders into the box. White gave him the option both sides, and again, we'll see from White's touch map that it was generic right back touch space. But you add to that the decision-making and the two of them together. Again, they rest Timber. All right, Timber had to come on. But they've then got an England international level fullback to replace him. So the squad is sensational. So he might be complaining a little bit about the schedule, but he shouldn't really be complaining when he's got two squads to pick from.
Exactly, he's got the players to fill. And that was the criticism, or not even the criticism, sort of the hypothesis as to why Arsenal have come up short the last few seasons, is because not that their first 11 wasn't as good as anyone else's in the Premier League, but just because they didn't have the depth.
Yeah, I mean, one of the Arsenal fans in the office last night said, another injury. And I went, look, I'm sorry, I've left my violin at home. Because, because they have that. But it's not a dig at Arsenal. That's because they've got so much quality, Other teams have got such a drop-off from their first 11 when they have 4 or 5 injuries, which happens
Arsenal
at this
had.
time of year. Exactly, yeah. And that's what, as you quite rightly say, it's happened in previous years. Not this year. They've got 2 teams. Their second 11 would finish in the top 4.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think either of us are beginning to get our violins out for Arsenal fans anytime soon, are we, mate? Solid Timber. We did Timber the other week, so we've had to shift it up a little bit. Exactly. Yeah. Obviously, he got a rest, or he thought he was getting a rest before the game. Mosquera goes down injured, comes off. Lots of surprise that perhaps Ben White didn't push over and play as centre-back, and then Timber comes in at right-back. But he does play there for Holland. He'd done an absolutely excellent job at centre-half.
Yeah, he did. He was, and I was surprised. I would have thought the comfort thing would have been to move Ben White, who was the centre-back at Brighton, into centre-back and put Timber in his normal position. But a couple of reasons maybe in the moment or in the plan that Arsenal didn't do that is getting that relationship of Madueke and White even better, because they're going to need them much more often. And also is that perhaps Timber would do a little less running as they've given him a rest playing centre-back.
True,
So there's a little bit of that.
Would it also, sorry, Dino, just be that it had been going well between White and Madueke?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you lose one player, then you're making 2 changes if you switch the position. So yeah, spot on. I do think there was. Look, I love Timber. I think he's the best right back in the league. And other than probably Reece James, but Reece James is a midfielder now, right? So as we did in the show the other day. But yeah, there was a couple of moments where he defended like a right back in a centre-back position, and they're going to have to be aware of that at Aston Villa on Saturday.
Talk to me, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I mean that when you're a right back or a full back, you've got the comfort blanket of a centre-back next to you. And because now most of the time teams play one up top, the centre-back is able to cover the full-back when the full-back jumps out of position. Often in games we talk about centre-backs jumping and going out, but that's often with the lone striker, which means then they've got another defender to cover around the back of them. A couple of times Timber went out and jumped out of position, and either Calafiori or White had to get round as the full-back and cover him. So it was okay. They were in control. It was against Brentford. But just looking ahead to the weekend, they've got the likes of Marlon and Rodgers for Villa, who will Emery likes them to come off the wings to receive the ball. And if then a centre-back jumps out of position, that's when an Ollie Watkins or a Marlon runs in behind and goes in the space that's been vacated. So absolutely, they will talk about that in the next couple of days. So he did great. Duels, no problem. Right? If it's a 1v1 duel, we know that Timber's going to win 80% of them. But it was just that positional thing. Again, not played masses of games at centre-back, so let's cut him some slack. But it'll be something that they will absolutely be working on this week is let's not jump out there as a centre-back, stay with your mate Hincapié and just stay as a 2, because then the full-backs are the cover man and they will also go out and jump. So, yeah, a little bit to work on, but, he's class. He'll get it pretty quickly.
Do you expect then Timber to play against Aston Villa as a centre-back or a right-back, depending, of course?
Yeah, if Mosquera isn't fit and Saliba's not ready, then yes, I would say that it'll be White, Timber, Hincapié, and then either Mars Lewis Skelly or most likely Calafiori. So, yeah, I think that was probably a pointer to how they'll play at the weekend.
Do you still think he's the better centre-back option, even if they've got a bit more time to prepare for the 11 they think they'll start with?
Yeah, I think if he gets his decision making right, in that position, that was a mouthful, wasn't it? If he gets that right, then because of Watkin or Marlin's pace, Timber's slightly quicker than White, so therefore having him as the centre-back is probably the better option.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But Saliba could make the weekend, we hear.
Absolutely, Dino. Well, look, 2 massive substitutions in that game, of course. And look, don't forget, with Betfair's Safe Sub, your bet is not over if the player you have backed gets subbed off because it rolls on to the player coming on. So, for example, last night, if you'd had Mosquera to get a yellow card and then he gets subbed off, replaced by Timber, and then Timber gets booked, you still get paid out. Dino, point number 5, David Raya in goal. Raya light. I like that one. There's no singing required either, which is happy days. David Raya playing against his old club, Brentford, of course, and another solid performance from a man, if Arsenal are going to win the Premier League, who is as important as anyone else in their squad.
Yeah, and I think Raya Light was a Madonna song.
Was it? Go on.
Yeah. No. But yeah, look, we probably don't talk enough about goalkeepers when they do their job, you know,
yeah,
but we should because he barely. I mean, what was it? Something ridiculous like 9 games without conceding a shot or something silly, like I know. But then when it happens, that's when those goalkeepers earn their money, right? That's what they're training for. That's what they're paid for. And Arsenal have been so dominant that on the ball he's been really good. His improvement has been really, really big, and he makes the right decisions 99 times out of 100, short pass or long pass. But when that cross came in for Brentford, it was one of those moments that about 5 of us watching it at the same time went goal. Because as the striker jumps, the defender's not gone with him, and you think from 5 or 6 yards out, brilliant cross, brilliant met header, goal. There's nothing you can do. But then brilliant save from Raya, and I watched the replay back, and he's got this split second to make a decision of is he going to go and punch it?
Yeah.
And when he sees the attacker come across the defender, he takes one step back and sets himself. And then when he sets himself, there's a brilliant grab that our grabs man has done where Raya is staring at the ball. And to do that, I mean, it looks even quick in slow motion. And to do that at that speed, at that level, look, his reaction save, most of the goalkeepers will do. But it was that decision between going and staying. That's one of the ones where often the goalkeeper comes and his arms and legs are everywhere and the header goes either under or over his arms because he's got halfway between coming for it and staying. He didn't. He made the decision, jumped back, set, save. Absolutely brilliant. And by the way, it was 1-0 at that point.
Yeah, true. It was truly wonderful. Again, it's one of those things where obviously we're talking about it on Tactics Exposed. Most people won't be talking about that this morning, will they? But obviously could have changed the game entirely. Yeah,
absolutely. And the set-piece coach, obviously, and the goalkeeping coach would have been straight out to Raya at the end or at half-time and just been like, wow, that's kept us in it. And I'm sure, actually, one of my pals was in that goal, behind that goal that he made the save. And I won't repeat the text because we can't say it on air, but it was, that was good, wasn't it? Yeah. Just really, really high quality. And again, you don't win a title if you've not got everybody singing from the same sheet and everyone on board, because this is the Premier League. Teams like Brentford, very good at set pieces, still a threat. It was 1-0. If Brentford go in at 1-1, the place gets nervous. Yeah. Brentford start to say, let's sit and stay deep and then go with set pieces again. But no, clean sheet again, magnificent.
Absolutely. Dino, the set-piece coach, Nicolas Hover, was too busy doing a lap of honour, taking the adulation from the crowd.
Yeah. Hovering about as he does. Yeah.
Exactly. Dino, just very, very quickly then, what's going to happen against Aston Villa at the weekend?
Yeah, they'll have to be... Aston Villa have got a brilliant, brilliant home record. Like, you'll be surprised. You look back over the last year, Aston Villa's home record is right up there with Arsenal, Man City and Newcastle of how good it's been. And they provide, they're very, very good at baiting teams on, to use that way we talked about. Emery likes them to play out. They invite teams into the area, and then it's a fast pass out and in to go from there. And with the level of Morgan Rogers and the likes, they will be a threat to Arsenal. And they've had a really, really tough couple of weeks, Arsenal, with the games they've played: Bayern Munich, North London derby, Chelsea, then Brentford, and now they go to Villa. So I can kind of see that Arteta's edgy about these games they've played, but everyone's playing games, Mikel. And of course, Villa played last night as well. So Villa are on a good run. They're up into that top four, and this will be one where, if Arsenal win this, then obviously they go into Christmas top of the pile.
Absolutely, Dino. Fantastic stuff as ever. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. If you've enjoyed this, don't forget to like this video, leave us a comment or two, subscribe to the channel, of course, and make sure you're back here on Monday for Tactics Exposed, where we'll be, as always, reacting to the biggest Premier League game of the weekend. Then make sure you're back here again next Thursday for Tactics Exposed Team Talk. See you then.